what is the balance between having a human experience and feeling the feelings and not getting caught up in the feelings and not dwelling on them because what we focus on persists. So ignoring the evidence of the 3D, as Neville Goddard says it, and persisting in the end, meaning getting back to the high vibe feelings of having what we already want, of being in it. But giving us the space to have a human experience, because that is how we learn and grow, and that is how we actually do evolve, is feeling the feelings. Was, how do I not react to a shade that somebody throws my way, or like a negative experience that I'm having with somebody in the 3D? How do I process that feeling and at the same time like have this higher level of consciousness where I recognize that I'm actually one with that person, and the way that they're treating me is really more about them. And when I react to it and when I act, when I focus all my energy on reacting to that person, I'm actually perpetuating more of it in my life. I don't want to do that, but I also want to have the feelings, because if we stuff down our feelings and just ignore them, then they're unprocessed and they'll just come back up again. So how do I process them without reacting and have a human experience? So how do I face these hard emotions and not dwell in them so that they persist in my reality over and over again? And one of the things I loved was, I thought about it. You don't have to react to process. You can process emotions and not react, and move through the emotion very succinctly and wisely without reacting and creating this big energetic body around your reaction that's then just going to continue to perpetuate it in your life. So here's an example. Anybody who's divorced knows that you have to co-parent with people that you tried for a really long time to make a relationship work with, and you just both got to the point where exasperatedly you could do it no longer. You threw your hands up in the air and you said, we must move on. And any time that you do that and there's children involved, you have a lot of ego involved. There's a lot of pain. There's decades of pain in many cases that you have to work through, not to mention the fear of failure and the stigma that comes with divorce, and the, feeling like you failed and being looked at in society like you failed. There's just so many emotions around divorce. And so when you're co-parenting with somebody, it's really easy to get caught in your feelings and to get stuck in your ego and react from that place, and be mean and be judgmental and cause drama and cause problems and fight over money and blaming. And especially when another person moves on in that situation and they get remarried or they bring in a new partner, it's really easy for the other partner to get triggered and act from a place of just maybe decades and decades long of hurt that they've never processed, that they've never come to peace with. And so they're continuously torturing the person that moved on and that found somebody else, because they're still stuck in all their harbored emotions of blame, shame, and regret and sadness, right? And so it's really, really hard when you're in that situation to continuously remain unbothered. And you're going to have moments where you just cry and have feelings, especially when kids are involved. Many times kids are used as pawns in another partner's game. And nothing hurts more than that as a parent, to watch your children lash out at you in ways that were perpetuated by a bitter ex-spouse. And it's hard because you can't get away from this person. Like, in my life where I've had friendships where friends did this to me and they acted out of pocket and they were negative and they weren't leveling up and they resented me for doing so, I could just walk away from that friendship and say, all right, your energy doesn't match mine anymore. This isn't for me anymore. Godspeed. But when you're co-parenting, you can't do that. You have to work with that parent forever and ever until that child is 18, but even past that point, because now you have grandkids. And I've seen this happen with grandkids where now, the other parent is now triangulating grandkids into the mix. Or stepkids are triangulating their kids, which are your grandkids, in the mix. So my point is, really, your relationship with somebody that you decided to have kids with, at the least, and if you decided to marry that person, there's even more dynamics. You have a relationship with that person forever. Like, you now have a soul tie with them. And so how do you respond to negativity? How do you respond to them lashing out at you and being really horrible, honestly, throughout your life? and not allow it to make you bitter. Seed and change, because I'm still trying to figure out the answer to this question. This is something that I'm living with right now, and it is one of the hardest things I've ever been through. So I think the answer to this is non-reaction. If you read Neville Goddard and you read Joe Dispenza, both of those thought leaders, philosophers, and in Joe Dispenza's case, neuroscientists, argue that what you resist persists. What you place your energy on, even if it's resisting it, even if it's saying this sucks and I don't want this in my life anymore, and like being sad about it and ruminating over how horrible it is or how unfair it all feels, you are perpetuating more of that in your reality, because the universe doesn't know the difference between good emotions, bad emotions. It only knows energy. And if you're applying energy in the state of not wanting it or resisting it, the universe will just give you more of that because you're focusing your energy on it. So what I've realized, and this is so much easier said than done, like I'm still trying to perfect this on a daily basis in my current reality. But what I've realized is when you completely ignore it and you just stop giving it your energy, it gets lighter and lighter and it gets less and less. And it doesn't mean you don't have moments where really horrible things happen. I just had a weekend where something really hurtful went down, and it was out of thin air, out of the blue, for no reason, which will happen often in your 3D. It's like you think you're doing so well and you think you've moved past a certain phase or pattern of circumstances, then all of a sudden it just smack dab hits you in the middle of your life and you're like, what the hell? This was me last weekend. I cried. I let myself cry. I let myself write out barrages of texts that I wanted to send the people, the perpetrators, about how I felt and how I was going to do this going forward and how I was going to protect myself and how I was going to do all these things, right? But I didn't press send because I recognized that pressing send and having all of these goals and all of these things I was going to do to exact revenge is exactly the kind of energy that's just going to continue to perpetuate the problem. And so I did what was so hard to do, but I just completely pulled my energy back. And I did give a requisite response to the person that hurt me, that perpetuated it. It was very diplomatic. There wasn't a lot of emotion involved in it, but I did say in like coherent terms, concise terms, hey, this hurts me. Just so you know, this hurts me. And I left it at that. And I can't control what another person does. I'm sure as hell not going to apply all of this energy to trying to make them change or make them love me better, because that doesn't work anyway. And all it does is just give you more of what you don't want. And so I laid my boundaries down. I cried, I processed the emotions, and then I moved on. You don't see me ruminating about it right now. You don't see me stressing and pressing about it and wondering why they did this and why they did that and stewing in all the negative emotions. That was the old way, and all that does is perpetuate a victim mindset. It just perpetuates more of you getting victimized. So I think the secret balance alchemy to this process is recognizing that what you resist persists, pulling your energy from the things that you don't prefer, the situations that you don't prefer, the emotions that you don't prefer, processing the emotions, allowing yourself to have a human experience, allowing yourself to have the emotions, but then moving quickly through them and pivoting quickly back to the higher vibe frequency and emotion of what you do want. This is a test in patience, especially when you are co-parenting with somebody that has no desire or toolbox to do any of those things. Their toolbox is to hurt you. Their toolbox is to lash out at you. Their toolbox is to blame you. And I'm still trying to figure this out. So if you've reached any sort of consensus or epiphanies on this subject, please leave it in the comments below. But I think I'm understanding that it's all me that gives it the importance. And if I don't focus on it and I withdraw my energy and I don't apply my energy to ruminating and stressing about it, it's not really a problem in my life. I can focus on the things that I love in my life that are amazing and beautiful. I can be in the emotions of those. So despite what he does, my reality doesn't change.